To you all. Thank you for joining us at the 45th National Management Convention of All India Management Association. Theme of the convention this year is Leadership in the Age of Disruption, India at 2030, creating a $10 trillion economy. We are privileged to have a most distinguished lineup of speakers, dignitaries, and a very eminent audience with us today. We would like to thank our sponsors who have supported us at the convention and made it possible for us to organize it at this large scale. We thank our principal co-sponsor, Reliance Industries, our co-sponsors, Havells India Limited and Kirloskar Brothers Limited, and all our associate sponsors, Ambuja Neotia Group, Hindustan Unilever Limited, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, Mother Dairy Fruit and Vegetables Limited, Neo Foods Private Limited, Power Guild, RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Tata Steel Limited, Uflex, Vodafone Idea Limited, and Tata Chemicals. We thank KPMG for being the knowledge partner. We also thank the National Stock Exchange of India Limited, Rural Electrification Corporation, and Transport Corporation of India Limited, our corporate contributors at the convention, for their vital support. Ladies and gentlemen, through the convention, we will be conducting live polls during the session. We request you to download the IMA mobile app to participate in live polling during the convention. You can download the IMA mobile app from IMA website, that is www.ima.in homepage, or from the Google Play Store and iTunes Store. For users who are not using Android and Apple phones, can take part in the poll by clicking the direct polling link on IMA website, www.ima.in. If you have the IMA app installed on your Android or Apple phone, then you can simply open the app and participate using below credentials. You can see it on the screens as well. The user ID is NMC2018 and password is IMA. May I also take the opportunity of requesting you all to please do remember to put your mobile phones on silent mode. Please do remember to either switch off or put your phones on the silent mode after downloading the app to avoid distraction to our speakers and to the audience. Moving on to the poll question. The poll question for this session, as you can see on the screens, India's leadership is prepared for the age of disruption, and the country will develop faster because of disruption. We invite you all to please participate and share your opinion. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start with the opening plenary of the IMA's 45th National Management Convention in just a few moments from now. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to start with the opening plenary session of the IMA's 45th National Management Convention. And with that, we have the pleasure of welcoming on stage Mr. Jayant Sinha, the Honorable Minister of State for Civil Aviation, accompanied by Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, President IMA and Chairman Manipal Global Education Services. We welcome on stage Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Convention Chairman and Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited, Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia, Senior Vice President, IMA, and Chairman Ambuja Neotia Group, Mr. Sanjay Kirloskar, Vice President, IMA, and Chairman and Managing Director, Kirloskar Brothers Limited, and Ms. Rekha Sethi, Director General, All India Management Association. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them all with a huge round of applause. May I request the dignitaries to light the traditional lamp and mark the inauguration of the convention. Thank you, sirs. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Ms. Rekha Sethi to deliver the introductory remarks.
Mr. Jayant Sinha, Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, Sanjeev Mehta, Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia, Sanjay Kirloskar, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you at the 45th National Management Convention of the All India Management Association. Mr. Suresh Prabhu, Minister of Commerce and Industry and Civil Aviation, is not able to join us today as he had to leave for Bangladesh. However, he has very graciously sent a video message which will play later in the session. I'm very pleased to welcome one of the most professional and dynamic ministers we have today, Mr. Jayant Sinha, Minister of State for Civil Aviation. Let's welcome him with a warm round of applause. Thank you, sir, for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation. Sanjeev, thank you for donning the role of the convention chairman. It has been a pleasure working with you to put together this convention. Mohan, Mr. Neotia, Mr. Kirloskar, always a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you so much for your support. We are also delighted to have with us, and over the next 2 days, many of IMA's past presidents, council members, and heads of local management associations. A big welcome to them, and to all the media and all our friends who are here, all IMA members, and all our well-wishers who have joined us today for the National Convention. The National Management Convention brings together the country's management leadership, and it is an occasion to brainstorm on important issues facing the country. At this NMC, we are focusing on leadership in the age of disruption and making India a $10 trillion economy by 2030. Indian economy is regaining its high growth trajectory, and the GDP increased by 8.2% in the first quarter of the fiscal year. According to IMF, the global economy is also set to grow by almost 4% in 2018-2019, which is a positive. However, we have to be ready to deal with disruptions caused by technological changes and geopolitical turbulence. India's leadership in this disruptive environment will have a big impact on the economic growth. We need to minimize the negative impact of disruption and harness it for greater growth. Disruptive technologies such as automation, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things can help us improve productivity and create new wealth. Though technology will disrupt some traditional jobs and businesses, it can have a constructive impact on India's GDP by lowering costs, increasing productivity, and creating more jobs. A recent study by McKinsey Global Institute says that by 2030 globally, AI will increase 5% additional jobs, and it will also boost the demand for labor by producing fresh wealth. India's fast-growing startup sector gives India an edge in harnessing AI and other disruptive technologies for growth. However, India's leadership has to be agile in dealing with the disruption caused by protectionism. The ongoing tariff tussle between the US and its major trading partners is disrupting trade and capital flows. India needs to work for a stable global order because foreign investment and markets will be critical to achieving the $100 trillion GDP target. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an extensive and varied program in the NMC today and tomorrow. Many distinguished leaders of the Government of India and Indian industry will address the convention. We will have focus sessions on making India a $10 trillion economy, business outlook for 2030, transition to Industry 4.0, economic diplomacy, aspirations of young leaders, and future of retail. We also have a session on spirituality with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji and a live Aapki Adalat with the Honorable Union Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari. I'm sure you'll enjoy these sessions. The NMC is also an occasion to felicitate leaders and organizations that have made exceptional contribution to Indian management. We will present important awards and fellowships during the course of the convention. The NMC also offers us an opportunity to share important management research with all our members. IMA partners top management consulting firms in conducting research, and 3 important reports will be unveiled at the NMC. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have you all here with us today, and thank you for joining us in the celebration of the management movement in the country. With these words, it's my pleasant task to invite the IMA President, Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, to deliver his welcome address. Thank you.
Minister Jayant Sinha, Sanjeev, Convention Chairman, my colleagues Harshvardhan Neotia, Sanjay, and Rekha, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to this 45th National Management Convention. Minister Sinha, we are very honored to have you with us. You are indeed a very unique person, a person who was in industry, who joined politics to better our future. We remember your innovation in the finance ministry because those of us in the tech industry are very grateful to you for all the things that you've done. Your legacy lives on. You're no longer there, but your legacy lives on, and we always remember you with fond memories. You went to the Civil Aviation Ministry, and we've seen a remarkable innovation there. And you had told us that you want every Indian to fly. And every Indian is indeed flying. We're the 3rd largest aviation market in the world, growing at 17–18% year on year. And civil aviation has become a mass transport industry. The only request we have is, we see so many people flying for the first time. For those of us in business, please give us a special queue, because we know how to go through security and everything else. Sanjeev, it's a pleasure to have you as chairman. You are indeed an outstanding management leader heading the largest FMCG company in the country. A veteran of emerging markets in Asia and Africa, you have provided your company with outstanding leadership in these times of disruption. If there's one person in industry, in the FMCG industry particularly, who has understood the impact of technology is Sanjeev, and you are indeed a role model for all of us. Thank you for being our chairman. I also welcome my IMA colleagues again. A warm welcome to all the past presidents of IMA, the members of the IMA Council, the LMAs, delegates, friends from the media, and distinguished friends of IMA who joined us from all over the country. The annual convention is indeed a time when all of us from all over come together to discuss and to celebrate. Ladies and gentlemen, this NMC will focus on 2 interlinked themes: leadership in the age of disruption and making India a $10 trillion economy by 2030. The latter is not a suggestion, it has to be made a reality. And we have no choice but to make India a $10 trillion economy. Technological disruption is changing the economy, and the new economy, the disruptive startups will drive India's growth and make us much more productive. IMA dedicated the past 12 months to raising awareness about the technological disruptions that are changing the way production, distribution, and consumption are done. Technology is making it possible to do things in new ways, and firms have to adapt fast to avoid getting disrupted. And the rate of disruption is indeed very, very fast. Throughout the year, we made it a point to talk to Indian business about the need to take up technology adoption, innovation, and agility so that India is not left behind in the digital age. In addition to this, we expose our management leaders to the coming disruption by taking delegations to the hotbeds of technological innovation, the Silicon Valley of the United States, and to China. These visits indeed opened everybody's eyes as to the future and helped them rethink the business plans and strategies. Last year, we went to the hotbed of innovation, Tesla, to see the car that drives by itself. I know Sunil is going to make that car here. We also went to IBM, Google, and Facebook to learn how AI, artificial intelligence, is going to change the way we deal with each other. Earlier this month, we went to some other technology giants like Apple, to the Apple campus, to the spaceship, and saw how cool Apple is. We went to NASA to find out what they're going to do next. Indeed, they're going to the edge of the universe. We also went to China, to Shenzhen, to Tencent, to Baba, and to many other companies to find out how these young companies are changing. And what we saw blew our mind away. It's a good thing that India is becoming data rich, and we have the potential to apply emerging technologies to solve the country's challenges. However, we need to create the capacity for technological competence in all sectors, including government, because government has to be prepared to lead the country in this new era. The visit to China reminded us that India needs to move faster toward creating a technology-intensive industry because we have no choice. The more one looks at what is going on in the labs and startups hubs of the world, the more one realizes that India's future depends on its young people, on all the startups that are happening. If India has to grow from $2.6 trillion today to $10 trillion in about 12 years, it depends on the startups who are revolutionizing India's agriculture, manufacturing, and services. We need to get our productivity up in a big way to achieve 8 to 10% growth. India has been tolerant of low productivity, and capacity building has lagged growth. So productivity is going to be the new mantra for India. But India's economy is digitizing fast. For those of you who may be following the digitization drive, India is leading the digitization wave in the world. Nowhere in the world can you transfer money from one mobile to another mobile free of cost in 30 seconds. Nowhere in the world. No financial system, not in China. It's because it goes to the payment system in India. In China, it goes to alternate mechanism. The startups are beginning to change the way supply chains functions and the way final products are delivered to consumers. Costs are being reduced. Of course, much of the cost is subsidized by Wall Street and by China, but sooner or later, we need to pay the price. I'm sure Sandeep understands the extent of subsidy in the business that he is in. We expect the startups to drive India's GDP growth. There are already 40,000 startups in the country with more than 450,000 people employed, and they're valued at more than $100 billion. Every day we hear of somebody raising $1 billion. It's exciting, but let me tell you, it takes a lot of hard work. Large-scale global investment is pouring into India's startups. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is making a rare investment into India. Walmart has paid $16 billion for India's e-commerce startup Flipkart, and Sanjeev is smiling all the way as to how there's going to be carnage in the marketplace soon. The deals for Indian startups are going on and is going to fuel greater tech entrepreneurship. So by 2025, India will have more than 100,000 startups creating $500 billion of value and creating 3.25 million jobs. So we're going to have a great amount of jobs coming for those who are prepared to embrace technology. India has about 20 unicorns, and by 2025, Sunil, we'll have more than 100 unicorns. I know you are leading the way with all your investments. India has the advantage of a huge domestic market, and India can do more of anything. We are a supply-constrained economy. We're not a demand-constrained economy. We're a supply-constrained economy, but supply has to come at a particular price, and the price can come where most people can buy. Today, we see the mobile connection being bought by almost everybody. One company has revolutionized the sale of mobile phones and smartphones in the country. Household incomes are rising at 7 to 8% because our population growth rate is quite down. Domestic consumption is 70% of GDP. So a combination of domestic consumption and investment is going to propel India forward. During this convention, we'll have discussion on many aspects of leadership in the age of disruption and capitalizing on the opportunities for growth through disruptive innovation. I'm looking forward to a very productive 2 days, and I'm sure we'll all enjoy the discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once again to the 45th National Management Convention, and I wish you great happiness and joy in each session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pai. May I now request the dignitaries on stage to please come forward to unveil the convention souvenir. Thank you all for doing us the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a few awards to be presented now. We begin with the presentation of IMA Honorary Fellowship. The All India Management Association confers Honorary Fellowship 2018 on Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, an accomplished business leader, a builder of high-performing teams and a creator of winning strategies. He leads India's largest FMCG company, which is also one of the most valuable companies in the country. A veteran of Unilever, he has led the company's businesses in many countries across the world. He has served as the Chairman and Managing Director of Unilever Bangladesh Limited, Chairman and CEO of Unilever Philippines Inc., and Chairman of Unilever North Africa and Middle East. Since 2013, he is leading Unilever's businesses in India and South Asia. A consummate management leader, he specializes in building organizational capabilities, growing nascent categories, building brands and developing leaders, and in every market he has led, he has enhanced the execution and competitive capabilities of the company and turned around the struggling businesses. An important member of the IMA Council, he has made a significant contribution to the governance and growth of IMA. As the chairman of the 45th National Management Convention, he has provided exceptional leadership in shaping and organizing IMA's flagship event. The All India Management Association is pleased to confer its Life Fellowship on Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited, for his outstanding contribution to the organization. I request the Honorable Minister and the dignitaries to join us in the award presentation. May I request Mr. Mehta to kindly share his thoughts?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Absolute pleasure to receive this honor from IMA. IMA is a great institution, been in the country for nearly 6 decades. And in many ways, it reflects the aspirations of the growing India and epitomizes the best of management and leadership in India. It's a privilege, and I think I would not do justice if I do not carry forward the lofty traditions of IMA in my professional life. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Mehta. Ladies and gentlemen, IMA has a practice of honoring its immediate past president with Honorary Life Fellowship in recognition of his distinguished service to IMA. Today, IMA confers the Honorary Life Fellowship of IMA on Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal, immediate past president IMA and chairman, the Hero Enterprise, for his leadership and contribution to IMA as its president during 2016 and 17. Ladies and gentlemen, an entrepreneur, institution builder, angel investor, art patron, and a management thinker, he is a multi-dimensional business leader. He has played a key role in building the Hero Group, one of India's largest automotive makers. He leads the Hero Enterprise with interests in steel, insurance, real estate, and corporate training, and has recently invested in several technology and e-commerce firms. He has co-founded the BML Munjal University, chairs the Doon School Board, and sits on the board of IIM Ahmedabad, ISB, SRCC, and the University of Tokyo. He also has been a keen member of key government task forces responsible for setting India's reform agenda. He provided outstanding leadership to IMA in its Diamond Jubilee year. As president, he expanded IMA's international footprint by holding conferences in the UK, US, and the UAE. During his tenure, 2 special sessions were held with the President and Vice President of India. He also led the project to construct IMA's new building. Under his leadership, IMA promoted the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Professional Skills Sector Skills Council. IMA's India Case Research Center was also set up in his watch to promote development of Indian management case studies. He also spearheaded IMA's first spirituality conclave, the PSU retreat, and the Diamond Jubilee Gala evening. Over 250 events and programs were held in his tenure, impacting 25,000 plus students and professionals, while IMA's testing services benefited close to 11 lakh candidates. The All India Management Association is pleased to confer the Honorary Life Fellowship on Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal, immediate past President IMA, for his extraordinary contribution to the organization. Congratulations, Mr. Munjal.
Thank you. This is a credit which doesn't go to any individual. This actually goes to IMA. While we take credit for the work that IMA does, but the reality is it's a secretariat, the team led by Rekha, and lots of outstanding individuals who do this amazing work. I was both happy and privileged to have the opportunity to be president in the year that IMA turned 60. So the Diamond Jubilee year was a special year for IMA, and certainly for me it was a great privilege and an amazing learning opportunity. So thank you to all of you, the many members of IMA who are here and the many who are not. And thank you Rekha and the team, and thank you Mohan and the team that I worked with, which was an absolute delight. Thank you all, and all the best for IMA.
Thank you, Mr. Munjal. Congratulations, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have the presentation of the IMA Managing India Awards. We now felicitate a very remarkable corporation in the category Indian Multinational of the Year Award. This award aims to honor and recognize the company for its global strategy and corporate excellence, by which it is being championed across the world and has shown tremendous growth globally despite a challenging global economic environment. The Indian MNC of the Year, Bharat Forge Limited, presented to Mr. Baba N. Kalyani, Chairman and Managing Director. The world's largest forging company with 10 manufacturing facilities spread across India, Germany, Sweden, France, and North America, Bharat Forge manufactures a wide range of high-performance, critical and safety components for the automotive and non-automotive sectors. Part of the 3 billion Kalyani Group, Bharat Forge is one of India's premier multinationals and largest producer and exporter of automotive components in the country. A preferred choice for every major automotive OEM in the world, the company is a global leader in the manufacturing of chassis components with absolute majority in crankshaft and front axle beam categories. A knowledge and innovation-driven company, it has outstanding expertise in metallurgy, and its know-how covers entire value chain from prototyping to manufacturing and testing. Keeping pace with the changing automotive technologies, it has entered the e-mobility landscape. It has set up R&D center in the UK and partnered with Teva Motors Jersey Limited and Torque Motorcycles India for foraying in this space. The company has extended its expertise to making parts and systems not just for the automotive industry, but also supplied critical components to industries like power, oil and gas, defense and aerospace, construction and mining, locomotive and marine. The company is making a strong foray in the defense sector and has recently also partnered with DRDO in indigenously developing AT-AGS, matching the likes of technology the Indian Army imports from abroad. All India Management Association is pleased to confer the IMA Managing India Award for Indian MNC of the Year on Bharat Forge Limited through its Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Baba N. Kalyani, whose technological and entrepreneurial abilities have turned the company into a global leader.
Well, thank you very much to IMA. I'm very grateful for this recognition. It's a recognition for the more than 4,000 people that work in our company. But I must tell you a little story for a minute as to how this happened. It was in 1995 that I was visiting Germany, an OEM's facility, and I just mentioned that we would like to supply you crankshafts for your engines. Apart from holding my shirt and throwing me out of his office, he almost did everything else. And that kind of lit a fire in me, and I said, we have here. And that's the story of Bharat Forge's multinational business start. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Kalyani and Team Bharat Forge on winning this coveted award. May I now request Mr. Sanjeev Mehta to deliver his address.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Jayant Sinha, Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Government of India, Mr. Mohandas Pai, Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia, Mr. Sanjay Kirloskar, Rekha Sethi. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and it's been a real privilege to chair the 45th National Management Convention of IMA. Mr. Sinha, it's an absolute honor to have you with us. We deeply appreciate that you agreed to share your thoughts on how India could leapfrog, perhaps pole vault, the traditional stages of economic development and go directly to the digital frontier. All of us here are absolutely excited to hear your thoughts. My compliments to Mohan, Harsh, and Sanjay for providing exceptional leadership to IMA and in ensuring that IMA remains a key management thought leader in the country. Thank you, Rekha, and your team for pulling this convention together and for having a rock-solid secretariat. The planning has been flawless, and I'm absolutely certain, the wonderful leader that she is, the execution would be even better. The theme of the convention reflects IMA's prognosis of India's future, and we will address the different facets of the economic trends over the course of this convention. There are two parts to the theme, and they are symbiotically connected. Technological disruptions will have an immense impact on India's challenges and opportunities as the country strives to push for a GDP of 10 trillion by 2030. Advances in technology are redefining business models, production systems, route to markets, consumer journeys, and creating room for innovations to disrupt the old order. The incumbents no longer enjoy the immunity or the power they once did. The conventional capabilities, resources, and networks are losing their sheen. New technologies have opened up limitless possibilities for entrepreneurship and disintermediation in every business. The barriers to entry have reduced significantly in several industries. The technological disruption is not confined to a group of industries or the industrial sector alone. Today, technology is heavily influencing politics, society, culture, and allowing new ways of propagating, disseminating, and implementing ideas. Innovation is not just about making a new product or inventing something. It is about looking at the ordinary and seeing the extraordinary. It could be about redefining a product or reimagining how it is delivered to the consumer. Today, the innovators are attacking the pain points of the existing business models and are able to wean away the consumers by offering frictionless experience at a significantly lower cost. The sweet spot of an innovation is solving a problem or meeting the unmet needs of the consumers, having capabilities which are distinctive and hard to replicate, and where the innovator can appropriate a large part of the value chain, best captured by the network impact of the digitized world. However, if the disruptor is unable to replace the incumbent quickly and decisively or sustain the momentum, the disruption may turn out to be a brief phenomenon, as we often see in our FMCG sector. The incumbents catch up and become disruptors. We also see that happening in the banking and the finance sector, where the incumbents are fighting back. The banks are now offering all kinds of services through mobile phones, and the credit card companies are replacing the physical cards with mobile phone apps for faster, convenient, and cheaper transactions. The winner is not always who goes first, but who does it better. In today's world, the threat of disruption keeps the management on their toes. It is no longer that the big will beat the small, but you need an agile management which can adjust quickly to the new reality and a resilient team which can bounce back from setbacks. The government has taken big decisive steps to digitize the economy. History will remember demonetization as the watershed moment when it comes to our country's digitizing journey. It ensured that most Indians got their digital identity created, and the cash-reliant businesses started subscribing to the digital payment methods. While demonetization introduced Indian masses to the digital economy, the GST regime is converting every business to the digital faith. Digital identity, digital payments, digital taxation will be the catalyst for the data economy. Data is the magic portion of the new economy, which lends itself to digital innovation in the country. The marriage of a growing digital connectivity and the large-scale data harvesting are spawning hundreds of startups every month. The data produced by more than 1 billion people offers infinite opportunities for new solutions for everyday issues at national and even at global scale. It is likely to grow even faster as digitization improves efficiency and productivity of Indian firms and workers. The Indian economy is regaining momentum and remains one of the fastest growing large economies. Certainly, there are concerns about the negative effects of escalating trade war between US and rest of the world, as well as the rising prices of the crude or the depreciating currencies in the emerging world. However, India has plenty of slack in the economy, which can be pulled to sustain a high growth for many years. There is plenty of room for new investment and consumption in the country. India can accommodate trillions of dollars of investment just to catch up with the needs of infrastructure or the potential demand in the country. The consumption-led economic growth is a big attraction for global investors who are struggling to find growth. Heading India's largest FMCG company, I believe there is no better place in the world to run a FMCG company than India. India's consumer-oriented startups have become magnets for the big-ticket cross-border investments. The multi-billion-dollar deal between Walmart and Flipkart is an indication of what smart money thinks of the Indian economy. India's online retail is growing at an exponential rate, albeit still very small. Already the number of internet users has crossed 500 million, and as cheap mobile broadband spreads to the rural areas, more extensive and varied opportunities are becoming available to the digital business. So far, the online retailers have only touched the tip of the pyramid, and it is up to them to expand the warehousing and distribution networks to meet a huge pent-up demand beyond the big cities. According to a research report on wealthy Indians, half the ultra-high network individuals stay in the smaller cities and towns. India must resist the temptation to jump onto the protectionism bandwagon and stay open for business so that it can attract the most capital and latest technologies. India can become the best in the world by collaborating and competing with the best. India needs great entrepreneurs and great managers. The startups are showing the way, and the old economy needs to shake off its unite and innovates its way out of the jam. Going by the present trends, it is plausible to expect India to become a $10 trillion economy by 2030, a 4 times increase from the present level. This will, of course, not be easy. It will require India to accelerate the growth rate from about 8% at the moment to certainly double-digit. China did it. For 20 years, in 2 out of 3 years, China delivered double-digit growth. If ever there was a moment for India to press the pedal on growth rate, we believe it is now. Disrupting the conventional development model is the key to quadruple the country's GDP by 2030. We can argue, is India going to have a Chinese kind of growth model, or is India going to have the US kind of growth model of the 80s and 90s? Or India might create, which would then be labeled as the Indian growth model. India cannot afford to take the slow route to change. It is no longer feasible to gradually shift the farming workforce to manufacturing and then graduate it to the services. India needs to fold the future in and undertake a big effort to pull every Indian into the new economy right away. To tell us how India can jump from farm to factory model to farm to frontier model, we are privileged to have with us Honorable Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Mr. Sinha. I would now request Harsh to invite the Honorable Minister to make his presentation and share his thoughts about what could perhaps be India's development model. Thank you, and bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, could not be present with us here today due to some unavoidable circumstances. We shall be inviting the Honorable Minister, Mr. Sinha, to address us later. However, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, has sent us a video message for all of us on this special occasion, which we are pleased to play here for all of you.
I'm very happy that IMA, as usual, is doing the National Management Convention. It has almost become like a routine for me to attend it and to address such a distinguished lot of people who actually inspire me to do more. IMA is a leading institution providing a platform for all the policymakers, thinkers, opinion makers, new idea makers to come together and guide others to chart out a new course of action in their own life, in their own business, or in their own companies. As I can see very clearly, India is poised for a huge growth. 8.2% growth has already been registered, and Prime Minister is working on a very unique strategy, probably unparalleled anywhere. He is working on a social transformation through various programs, social security, another very interesting dimension, and economic development at the same time. So it's a multi-track strategy, because we don't have a luxury of waiting to do one before the other. We have to do everything together. He has launched Ayushman Bharat, which is the world's largest social insurance scheme. 50 lakh people, 5 million people, 50 crore people, almost 500 million people will get an insurance cover which will help them to go do hospitalization up to ₹500 million, 5.5 lakh rupees. Also, an insurance cover to do medication in other areas. Hospitalization has been an experience of torture for people, not because of physical pain, but because of the financial strain that it causes on the family. So patient suffers in the hospital and a family suffers at home. This is a unique program by which Prime Minister is trying to make sure that every member of the family will feel secured and the patient will get cured. This is something which is a very unique program he has launched. On the other hand, social transformation program, equity, to bring in cleanliness, to bring in civic sense, these are all new challenges he is addressing. Hallmark of Prime Minister regime is transparency and forward-looking ideas. At the same time, economic transformation which is taking place through investment into infrastructure and areas. As a Commerce Minister, I have prepared a plan to register highest growth of exports ever registered in India this year, because we had seen a decline of exports. The last 6 years, exports were going down and we have brought them up, and the highest 6 years growth rate we registered last year. In 17-18, after I became minister, we could do that, and now we are working on it. We are working on a district-led growth in India. First time. Idea is that if all districts in India grow, how can India not grow? And therefore, we are launching it in 6 districts in 5 states. I am working on ease of doing business for every district of India. For every district, we are identifying geographical indicators so that people in that area, the communities must benefit from the traditional knowledge that they possess. We are also working on a new industrial policy. We are also working on agriculture export policy. We are working on a transformative measures for logistics. That's another my responsibility. In logistics, we are trying to digitalize logistics, create logistic portal. In aviation, we are trying to work on making aeroplanes in India. Already announced a policy to make drones in India. Another 100 airports will come up in next 15 years with an investment of $65 billion. I am preparing a vision for aviation for 2035 to make aviation the globally competitive and globally leading industry of the country. So just imagine all the transformative measures we are trying to do, which will help India to grow. I again wish all the best to you. I am in Bangladesh, so not able to join in like I do always. So it's my opportunity lost, but I am sure all of you will work on it in a way that will benefit everybody to come. So thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to IMA as well as all the participants. I really wish you all the best.
We are very thankful to the Honorable Minister for this video message. May I now request Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Jayant Sinha.
Honorable Minister, President Mohan, Mr. Mehta, Mr. Kirloskar, Rekha, past presidents of IMA, ladies and gentlemen, management students, it is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to invite the Honorable Minister to address us today. The subject, sir, of your presentation is extremely pertinent to the theme of the convention. India cannot hope to become a 10 trillion economy by 2030 unless it breaks with the farm-to-factory model of development and adopts a radical farm-to-frontier model. The time for people moving from farm to factories is gone. Manual labor, whether on the farm or in the factory, has been irrevocably disrupted. In the digital age, every economic activity requires knowledge of acquiring, understanding, and applying data, at least in some basic form. That leaves India with no option but to leapfrog the manual manufacturing stage and head straight for the frontier of knowledge and skills. India needs to pull every single citizen into the network of the digital economy to increase national output and people's income. Honorable Minister, you have been advocating this radical new approach to development, and we are truly privileged that you agreed to make a presentation on the subject at this convention. An outstanding parliamentarian and an accomplished minister, you made a big impact in your very short career as a politician. You brought path-breaking strategic thinking to politics and governance, and you have challenged the status quo with your bold views and actions. As a minister in the central government, you made outstanding contributions to policy making in the areas of national finance and civil aviation. You played a key role in many pivotal initiatives of the government, including the PM Mudra Yojana, Indradhanush package for the government-owned banks, bankruptcy bill, and the insurance bill. As a Minister of State for Civil Aviation, you have revolutionized the aviation sector by introducing the Regional Connectivity Scheme. A renowned management consultant, you were a leading partner with McKinsey & Company for 12 years, and you led numerous strategic and operational projects for companies across North America, Europe, and India. You also had a successful career in fund management, and you led and advised many international funds in India and overseas. An outstanding management thinker and strategist, you bring your professional expertise to the larger development issues, and you have been propagating unconventional ideas for accelerating economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in inviting the Honorable Minister to address this convention.
Thank you very much, Shri Neotia, for that very kind introduction. Thank you also to many colleagues on the dais for their welcoming words. Srimati Rekha Sethi, Shri Mohan Das Pai, Shri Sanjeev Mehta, Shri Harshvardhan Neotia, Shri Sanjay Kirloskar. Also, warm congratulations to the award winners today. Of course, Sanjeev, Sunil Munjal, Shri Baba Kalyani. A very good morning to other friends and colleagues in the audience, members of the media, and of course, to everyone else who's present here. It is indeed my fortune, my good opportunity today to be able to talk to you about this thinking around farm to frontier. Now, I will apologize. Being a former management consultant, as Shri Neotia was pointing out, I have to do a presentation and I have to do PowerPoint. So I apologize for that. And let me just make sure the lapel mic is working here. Can you hear me? Is this working? Hello? Yeah, good, excellent. So being a former management consultant, as I said, I have to do PowerPoint. But it is not going to be death by PowerPoint. I can assure you of that. Having gone into public life, I recognize that whatever you say has to be short, it has to be pithy, it has to be engaging. So I will not do the consultant's PowerPoint, I'll do the politician's PowerPoint. When I came into public life, exactly as Shri Neotia was saying earlier, I had had a chance to work both as a business person, as a management consultant, and as an investor. And of course, as a result of that, I had seen many businesses, I had seen economic growth around the world. And so one of the things that really did exercise me, that one of the things that I really spent a lot of time thinking about in public service, was how should India grow? What should be India's development model? And Sanjeev was touching on that as well. And so when I spoke to my friends, economists, most of them, and I said, what's the development model that India should follow? And all of them said it's farm to factory. India should follow the farm to factory model. You get people out of low productivity agriculture, you get them into factories, you urbanize and you industrialize at the same time. That's the model everyone has followed. Whether it is the UK back at the time of the Industrial Revolution, whether it's the United States going through the Gilded Age and then into the Progressive Era, or more recently, whether it's Japan, it's Korea or China, everybody has followed the farm to factory model. There is no other model. This is the truth. This is what the economists and the policy thinkers told me. Now, and you will appreciate this because like you, of course, I'm a business person. The problem with economists is that they are economists. That's the problem with economists. Friends, they have never made payroll in their life. They have never lost money on a trade. They have never fired people. So when you hear their advice about how to grow businesses, how to grow the economy, you should be skeptical. Because most of what they say, and I say this as an engineer and a technologist as well, most of what they say is backward looking. They're looking at the rearview mirror. They're looking at China, they're looking at Korea, they're looking at the US and say, do what they did. And even now I get a lot of hostility from economists because they're saying, you know what, are you saying that India will have a model that's different from the rest of the world? And I have to say to them, yes, India is different. India needs its own unique development model because we have our own unique challenges. And the world has changed. How many factories are we going to build? How much water do we have? How much land do we have? India is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Did you know that? We have 2.5% of the world's land mass. We have 4% of the world's fresh water. We have 17% of the world's population. We have 17% of the world's cattle. We are a very densely populated country with limited natural resources. We are facing real constraints when it comes to how much carbon we can put into the atmosphere as a responsible global citizen. How are we going to follow this backward-looking, rear-view mirror farm-to-factory model? It doesn't compute, folks. It doesn't compute. So for the last few years, and one of the great things about this job is you get a chance to talk to everyone. So for the last few years, I've been asking every economist I could find, so tell me, what do we do? And I think that's the question that you all are also asking. It's fantastic, and I know if we run the math, and I can run the math as easily as anyone else in my head, if we run the math at 7-8% GDP growth, we get to 5 trillion and 10 trillion. That's easy. Anybody can run the math. The question is not the math. The question is not how do we get, whether we're going to get to 5 trillion or 10 trillion. The question is how. How do we do that in light of the natural resource constraints that we face, in light of the urbanization pressures that we face, in light of the education challenges that we face? In light of that, do we follow the farm-to-factory model? Can we really follow the farm-to-factory model? Or do we have something that's entirely different, that is sui generis, one of a kind, India's unique development model? Now my thesis, this is my own personal thesis, it's not government policy, it's not. It's just a set of ideas I want to present to colleagues who think about technology, who think about disruption, who think about business, who think about how the economy grows and adds jobs. I want to present a set of ideas to you as colleagues and say, let's debate this. Let's ask ourselves these questions, not whether we'll get to 5 or 10 trillion, but let's ask ourselves how. How are we going to get to 5 or 10 trillion dollars and have a better life, a more prosperous life, a higher quality of life for our citizens? What's India's unique development model? And friends, my thesis is it's not farm to factory. It's not farm to factory. And as a play on words, I'm saying it's not farm to factory, it's farm to frontier. We have to be at the frontier, whether it's the digital frontier, the technology frontier, the business frontier, or the productivity frontier. We have to be at the frontier, keep on disrupting, keep on innovating, keep on growing. That's the only way we can do it. Let's not be backward looking, let's be forward looking, farm to frontier. Now let's see if I can get the clicker to work. There we go. So if we think farm to frontier, let's make it human. Let's not be an economist and talk numbers and talk about different theories. Let's talk about a person. That's my voter. I have to talk about my voter. His name is Bhola Mehto. Bhola Mehto lives in Tati Jharia block in Hazaribagh. How do I get Bhola Mehto a better job? Bhola Mehto does not want a job in the informal sector. You ask our Indians, you ask our young people, they're very aspirational, they're very ambitious. They don't want to work as a construction worker. They don't want to work in a dhaba as a waiter. They don't want an informal job. What they want, what our aspirational class, our young people, our Bhola Mehtos want, is they want a formal sector job. And they either want a formal sector job, if they're from the north, if they're from Jharkhand or Bihar or UP, they want a job in government. They want a job in government, or this is the picture of an IAS officer, or they want a job if they are in the south, in a tech company, in an IT company. They want to work for the kinds of companies that Mohan funds and sit in a nice office in Bangalore in an air-conditioned chamber and enjoy life going to a pub in the evening. That's what they want. So the question for us, let's make it real, let's make it human. How do we give Bhola Mehto a job like one of these? That's what we have to do if we want to get to $1 trillion and make sure our people are happy. That's the challenge in front of us. It's not an economic challenge. It's not a policy challenge. I believe at the heart of it, it's a human challenge. We have to meet the aspirations of these people. Now, let's also look at some numbers. If we look at some numbers, and ask ourselves how many people we have in the workforce. So today, and these are 2012 numbers, so we have to get them updated. Mohan tells me he has the most recent numbers. He's cranked them. He's got them all refined. So I'm going to use his numbers next time I do it. But basically, in 2012, when we did the last SSO survey, the total number of people in the workforce was 484 million people, of which, according to that survey, 2012 data, Mohan tells me these numbers have to be revised, the number of people in the informal sector is 409. About 90% or so, 80% or so are in the informal sector. 15 million are in the formal government. If you define it more broadly, it's closer to 25 million when you add armed forces, you add state and local government. But we have 20 to 25 million people who are in the formal sector in government. So Bhola Mehto, who wants that IAS job, he is not going to find a lot of those jobs because we have some government jobs, but we have limited government jobs. And those limited government jobs are going to grow as tax collections grow. So they are not going to leapfrog. It's not going to be an exponential growth. It's just going to grow slowly with GDP. So not too many government jobs. If we have to really give Bhola Mehto the job that he wants, we have to take people out of the informal sector where we have 400 million people, and we have to bring them into the formal private sector, the 60 million where we have right now. That's the number we have to grow. We have to take people from the farm and into the private sector. That really is the way it has to happen. Now remember, even as we are doing this is 2012 numbers, even as we are doing it, we have a very young population and they're joining the workforce. That's the famous 10 to 12 million people joining the workforce every year. So even as we are moving people from the informal sector to the formal sector, the whole number of people itself is growing. So we have to keep playing catch up with respect to that. So that is also quite important. Now, here is a chart I want to spend a little bit of time on. I apologize, this is the one management consulting chart. It's got a lot of numbers and a lot of details on it, but it's actually an important chart. And it comes back to Bhola Mehto's dilemma. It comes back to Bhola Mehto's dilemma. The dilemma is that if we were to take Bhola Mehto from farming, which is where he is in Tati Jharia in Hazaribagh district, his output right now in GDP, in per capita terms, is $1,600 is his output per capita for his family. There are about 240 million people who are employed in agriculture. Their total output is $386 billion. Therefore, their output per capita of the people who are working is $1,600. That is the output per capita of the people who are working in farming. If we take them into factories like textile factories, their output per capita, not GDP per capita, but their output per capita may go up a little bit. It may go up to $2,000, $2,500. If we bring them into auto, in Sri Kalyani's industry and other automotive industries, we do raise their output. Their output goes to $6,000. But if we really want to leapfrog, friends, if we really want to leapfrog, more productive, which is if your workers are not producing more output, you can't pay them more. Am I right or wrong? If they are not producing more per capita, we can't pay them more. We can't give them the jobs that they want. The productivity of the worker is key to his income and his future. But if we get them a job, which is a factory job where they are not paid very well, can we meet their aspirations for a middle class life? We cannot do that. Therefore, what we need to, because it is going to come from the private sector, folks. The growth in jobs is going to have to come from the private sector, from the formalization of the economy. But if we just go the factory route, we are not going to be able to leapfrog, Sanjeev. And that is a very important point I want to make, which is that we really need to get to the frontier. Now, the good news is that our economy has been creating high productivity jobs, high output jobs. If you look at what we've done in steel, you look at what we've done in IT services, aviation is a wonderful example where with about 200,000 people, we are generating $13 billion of output. And you take financial services, again with 200,000 people, we are generating in the private sector, with our private sector banks, about $20 billion in output. So the output per person is high. And when the output per person is high, they earn more. That's the key to all of this, productivity. the productivity of our people, Bhola Mehto's productivity. He has to be able to produce more so he can earn more and lead a better life. Simple truth, but very difficult to implement. Now, how do we actually do that? Sorry, this chart has gotten a little spoiled. We were playing with it last night. I apologize. My PowerPoint skills obviously have deteriorated since I left consulting. But essentially, the notion that we are trying to make in this chart is that we have to go not just from farm to factory, but actually to go to the productivity frontier. We have to go to the productivity frontier. Factory is not good enough. And if we want to go to the productivity frontier, we have to improve the skills of our individuals. Our individuals have to be able to produce more through their own individual skills, but we also have to equip them. Every individual, Bhola Mehto, has to improve his skills while at the same time being embedded in a supply chain, being embedded in a business where he is equipped to produce more. So we have to work on two axes, the skills of our individuals as well as their participation in world-class, highly productive supply chains where they can actually do more, and that's what enables them to get to the productivity frontier. And let me just make another point. The point I want to make is that when we talk about GDP per capita, when we talk about becoming a middle-income country, when we say that we have to take our GDP per capita and increase it from $1,800, which is where we are right now. We are a low-income country with a GDP per capita of $1,800. When we say that we want to be a $8,000, $10,000 GDP per capita, people think of that as earnings. That's not earnings. GDP per capita is not what people earn. It's what people produce. So if we want to be a middle income country, by the way, China is already at $8,000. China is at $8,000. If we have to get to $8,000, $10,000 GDP per capita, friends, remember, Bhola Mehto has to produce $10,000, $15,000 of output. That's what he has to do. If we take him into textiles, he's going to produce $2,000 of output. Today, he's producing $1,600, $1,700 of output as a farmer. So we have to get Bhola Mehto, we've got to get our populations into these highly productive jobs. We have to get them to the frontier, the productivity frontier, where their output and their productivity increases. So how do we actually do that? Again, the chart is a little off. Apologies for this late night work. But I think the way we have to do it is that we first have to, if we want to do the leapfrog, we have to take Bhola Mehto and we have to equip him with the tools. Because fixing his skills, getting him a better education is a very long-term thing. It takes time to build the cognitive skills. It takes time to improve the employability of people. It can be done. But people who are in the workforce who are 18, 20, 25, 30, we all know this because we've handled workforces. Once people are that age, their learning is not that fast. So we can't expect them to improve their skills overnight. That's not going to happen. Instead, what is going to happen is that if we plug them into a very productive supply chain, if we plug them into a platform that equips them with the skills, then their output can increase. It does actually increase. So first we move them along the supply chain in terms of the kind of tools and resources they have in a market ecosystem. Once they are there, then the continuous innovation takes off. And as a result, we can enable as many Indians as possible to work in high output industries. Now, I'm talking like an economist. I'm talking in a very abstract way. Let me make it real for you. Think of somebody who works for a ride-sharing company. Think of a driver who signs up for a ride-sharing company. Now, before he worked for a ride-sharing company, how did he get dispatched? What was his business model? Which supply chain was he plugged into? What was his use of digital technology? There wasn't any of that. He hung around at the railway station waiting for a ride. He hung around at the airport waiting for a ride. He would spend hours waiting. Then he'd pick up a ride. He'd fumble around taking that person because he didn't know the way. The person would say, let's go there. It's notoriously difficult to navigate in India because, you know, the maps are not very good, etc., etc. And eventually he would get to where he had to get to. The ride would take an hour, when it could have taken half an hour because he didn't know the way very well. You'd be guiding him, you'd get frustrated. Navigation would be a problem. And then once you got there, you'd be fighting with him about the change, the tip, all of this would be going on. How productive was that? How productive was that? Now, that same driver who could be completely innumerate, that is, he need not be good at numbers, probably is not a good reader. That same person, when they get plugged into the platforms that a ride-sharing company provides, what happens to dispatch? They are somewhere, they find out that there is a ride that's waiting for them around the corner, boom, they're there. Then that person tells them, go there, they look at a navigation map, Google Maps, whatever ways, look through it, and the 1 hour ride now takes them 20 or 30 minutes because they know exactly where they go to. And they don't even have to read if the ride is being told to them, the navigation is being told to them, through these directions, turn by turn directions. And when they reach their payment is automatic. What happens to the productivity of the driver when they're plugged into that technology platform? Their productivity goes up. What has changed in the skills of that individual? Nothing at first. They just learn how to use this platform very well. Their productivity has gone up. It's gone up 2x, 3x because of what they're doing. And over time, as they become more and more skilled in using this system, they change from being just a person who's ferrying you around town to somebody who's actually even delivering things for you through the various different delivery models that are out there. So now suddenly their productivity goes up even more because they've innovated. That's the power of these technology platforms. Once we plug people into these kinds of technology platforms, their skills will automatically improve. And friends, we know this. We can use, Mohan, artificial intelligence, we can use machine learning to customize the skills we need to develop for a particular driver. He may be very good at navigation, not so good at payments. He may be very good at payments, not so good at dispatch. Once we build a custom profile on each individual, we can keep on over time improving their skills and make them a lot more productive. It's all about productivity. It's all about technology. Now, as I said, we have to plug them into a market ecosystem. What is a market ecosystem? Now, one of the challenges I found when I got into government is I say, folks, we've got to get markets to work well. And a lot of people look at me and say, markets, what are markets? What is a market ecosystem? Seriously. Now, we've got to get markets to work. If we don't unleash market forces, if we don't unleash innovation, if we don't unleash entrepreneurship, how are we going to create frontier industries? How are we going to create productivity-driven companies, innovative, disruptive companies? We've got to know what markets are. Now, I want to give you an example of drones, which is something I'm involved in right now. Friends, we are literally developing the market ecosystem for drones. And to develop the market ecosystem for drones, we have to think about many different elements. We have to think about market infrastructure. How do you define a market? What are the contracts? How do you resolve disputes? How do you regulate this market? We have to decide what do the products and the pricing mechanisms look like in this market, because if we don't have symmetric information on that, the market doesn't clear, buyers and sellers can't sell to each other, there's too much friction, market is stillborn. How do we think about products and pricing? Where is the physical infrastructure that will support a drone ecosystem? Do we have the 4G network through which drones can navigate their way through the skies? Do we have billing and settlement systems through which drones can be paid for on a per-use basis for delivery and so on? Do we have that physical infrastructure to support that market ecosystem? And then we have to set the standards. We have to set the standards, because if we don't set the standard, we balkanize and fragment the market, we don't develop the scale, and the market doesn't grow. Standard setting is key to market creation. And how do we set standards? Who gets involved in setting standards? That is so important. A lot of what this digital economy of the future is going to be like is who owns the standards? Who defines the standards? And if you look at it from the other side, from a businessman or an investor side, you say, I want standards to be owned privately. I want not de jure standards, but de facto standards. If I set the standard, I create the platform, I am the toll booth, and guess what? My market cap is a trillion. That's what the power of the platform economy is. Who sets the standards? Who creates the market? Who is the architect? These are central questions for the economy of the future. If we want to be at the frontier, friends, we as an economy have to be able to set standards. We have to be able to create public platforms. This is a word of the future, public platforms. And I was very, very happy that the speakers before me, particularly Mohan, spoke a lot about platforms, public platforms. We have done something amazing, remarkable, historic in India. Please, if you take one thing away from this talk, one thing away, I want you to understand what we in India have done on public platforms. Mohan is prompting me, exactly correctly, to talk about the India Stack. He is right. What we have done with the India Stack, what we have done in payments through NPCI and UPI is unprecedented. What it is going to do to revolutionize this economy, make it more digital, make it more of a disruptive economy is incredible. But Mohan, you don't know the best yet. Because we have done it through the India Stack, we now know how to do it again and again and again. And unlike in China, where many of the platforms are owned by private companies, and in many cases in the US also, where platforms are owned by private companies, they are not public platforms, they are private platforms. In India, we have seen them as public goods and created them as public platforms. We have done that with UPI. We have done that with the payment stack. We are doing that in health. And that's what Sri Suresh Prabhuji just said. What we have done in Ayushman Bharat through the National Health Agency and the health stack is extraordinary. We are of course covering 500 million people, but the whole process is going to be cashless and portable. You can, Bhola Mahto can, leave Tati Jharia, take his father who's suffering from cancer, go to Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, and his treatment is going to be covered, cashless, portable, seamless. I said take one thing away, and that is public platforms. We have created through the health stack the public platform to enable this kind of healthcare delivery. Now, what is it going to pull from a supply side perspective in terms of technology innovation, in terms of a supply side response, in terms of hospitals, clinics, physicians, all kinds of services? That's how you build a public platform and build mass services on top of it. This is sui generis. This is, nobody else in the world is doing this, friends. This is the unique India development model. What we have done in payments, we are replicating in health right now. And let me add one more. And that is in travel. In travel. In travel, we are architecting a similar public platform called DigiYatra. In DigiYatra, we will do your KYC once. And once we have captured your KYC, and it's completely voluntary, you give us your biometrics. And right now, facial recognition is moving so quickly, most likely the underlying technology is going to be facial recognition. You just sign up. Mohan, you were asking about flying today. We're going to make flying really, really easy for you. You sign up once, Bangalore Airport is already doing it, Mohan, so you can be the first person. If you want, we will make you the first person in Bangalore Airport. Done? Is that a done deal? Done. Okay. So we'll get Mohan to sign up. So Mohan goes to Bangalore Airport, he does his KYC, he goes to a kiosk, they capture his face, and we've got his biometrics in terms of facial recognition. And Mohan, after that, the line that you wanted, you said you don't want to have to deal with everybody else, you will have your own digital lane, Mohan. You will go through, your face will be your identification, you will go through the access to get into the airport, you will check in, you will have to go through security without a boarding pass, you'll get onto the plane without a boarding pass. It's going to be all digital. That public platform, the digital standards have already been worked on for the last year and a half. We've had a working group working on putting together these digital standards. They've worked it out. And of course, we had the model of the India Stack to build on. We've got help from iSpirit and the others, the people who've architected the India Stack, and we've been working with them to do this. So it's a lightweight set of technical specs, protocols that are then available to everybody in the ecosystem to implement. So your PNR becomes active for 4 hours or so around your travel time. That PNR then becomes available one time, purged thereafter, so there's no privacy issue, to the airport. You go to the airport, your PNR is active, therefore you're allowed into the airport. That was the regulatory intervention that we said, if the airline or the travel agency has a PNR that is active, it's within 4 hours of travel, then it goes to the airport to allow you to get access. That was the only regulatory intervention required. Then the airport has your facial biometrics, and then from there you can go right through board. The airport uses all of that information, and by the way, they are free to implement whatever technology, whichever vendor, however they want to do it. So we've allowed them to do that any which way they want, and that's what Bangalore, by the way, is implementing. They have already placed the order. So they go through and they implement it. Every airport implements the same protocol, and now suddenly, for the first time in the world, and IATA and ICAO are studying this very closely. For the first time in the world, there is a national travel standard which can be implemented by any airport to allow you to travel digitally. Nowhere else in the world, friends, is this happening. As I said, one word: public platforms. Public platform. That's how you actually build markets, by solving the standards problem, by creating these public platforms. So that's what we're doing with DigiYatra. We're doing a similar version of that in drones. I'm not going to get into the technical details, but just leave you with one thought, that if we're going to build a drone ecosystem in India, and we're going to be the leaders in the world as far as drones are concerned, friends, we will have thousands and thousands of drones in our skies, in Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai. How do we do traffic management when we have thousands of drones in the sky? It can only be done digitally. It can only be done through a public platform, through standards which are interoperable and everybody has to follow. Again, we have to build these ecosystems. We have to build these public platforms so people can coordinate, people can collaborate, and we solve, and here I have to give it to the economists, we solve what is called in economics as the coordination problem. Solving the coordination problem is one of the singular tasks of the sovereign, of a forward-looking sovereign that is thoughtful about how to get to 10 trillion. We have to solve these massive coordination problems, whether it's in electric vehicles, whether it is in drones, whether it is in healthcare, whether it is in payments. The role of the sovereign in building these markets, very importantly, is around setting these standards, creating these public platforms. So the market ecosystem, if we can plug people into these kinds of market ecosystems, we can really, really be able to do a lot for them. And of course, you know, the good news is that we have many highly productive companies that have been generated through this kind of innovation, through this kind of disruption. We've created hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap in, of course, IT services. We are seeing that in many other industries, ride sharing. We are seeing that in financial services. We are seeing that in electric vehicles, and on and on and on. So our economy has the ability to do this. We have shown it, wave after wave of innovation, from IT services to fintech, to aviation, to electric vehicles, renewable energy. In sector after sector, decade after decade, we have created such highly productive industries. We have done it. Now, this is what we need to reinforce. This is what we need to strengthen. This is what we need to encourage. And if we do that, and here is the central question that people always ask me when I talk farm to frontier. What the economist says, all right, so you say that India is going to have a unique development model? You think India is going to have a unique development model? How are you going to create the jobs? China has created the jobs. China has put people in factories. Can India create the jobs? Now, this is a thought experiment. This is not a projection, this is not a forecast. It's a thought experiment, and friends, it's a challenge to you. It's a challenge to you. It's a challenge to our business leaders. It's a challenge to our entrepreneurs. How do we create these frontier jobs? Mohan, that's the question. How do we innovate? How do we disrupt? Because we have to give Bhola Mahto a job. And the beauty of this, and Mohan and I have worked together very closely on this for a long time, When we look at these frontier jobs and we say, all right, fine, if today there are 10 million frontier jobs, we did a rough calculation, there are 4 million jobs in IT services alone, Mohan, 4 million in IT services. We say, all right, highly productive jobs, jobs where people are producing tens of thousands of dollars of output per capita, because that's where they get the income. That's how they can have middle class lives, that's how they can buy cars, that's how they can travel on planes. Those types of jobs probably in the economy are around 10 million in the private sector. Direct frontier jobs, I call them. But, and we've seen this through careful empirical analysis, for every direct frontier job, you actually do create 3 indirect jobs. So for every person working at HUL, Sanjeev, there's probably 3 other people that are supported by that person. Of course, Sanjeev is saying factor of 10. But I'm not sure how many of those 10, Sanjeev, are formal as opposed to informal. So these are formal indirect jobs that are linked to direct frontier jobs. So it's a security guard who's on payroll, for instance. It's a bus driver who's on payroll, right? It's somebody working in the canteen who's on payroll. These are the kinds of formal indirect jobs that are related to one direct frontier job. Because the output per capita is high enough, it's $70,000, $80,000. So they can support people who are in those formal indirect jobs. Now, that would mean that the total number of jobs that are linked to these frontier industries, Mohan, the industries at the productivity frontier, the industries at the technology frontier is about 40 million today. And so the question is, can we over the next 20 years, if we have to get to $10 trillion, I believe, this is my personal view, my thesis, I believe we have to take the number of direct frontier jobs from 10 million to 50 million, which means we have to create 2 million of these jobs a year. That's what this is not, economists are not going to do this, Sanjeev. Trust me. No economist is going to go out and put millions of people to work, but you are, Sanjeev, Sunil, you're going to do it. Harsh, you're going to do it. You all have to do this. We have to create these jobs in the businesses that we lead, in the businesses that we invest in. We have to create these jobs. And if we can create 2 million of these jobs a year over the next 20 years, we will have gotten to 50 million jobs that are in these highly productive industries, and total frontier jobs, therefore, because of the direct-indirect ratio, will come to 200 million. So we will have 200 million families that are linked to frontier industries because of the jobs that we create. And that's what's going to power our economy forward. Because I'm not interested only in $10 trillion. I'm not interested in $10 trillion. What I want to know is, how do we keep growing? How do we keep innovating? How do we keep expanding opportunity for everyone? We have to go from 10 to 50 trillion, ultimately. But we can only do that if we have these companies, if we have the people who can keep innovating and creating new value and becoming more and more and more productive over time. And there, of course, as I said, public platforms, market creation, all these things become extremely important. That's what I believe. So that's what will get us to this 200 million jobs. Now, as I said, what is crucial to all of this is we have to enable these markets to take off. And as we know, when markets take off, there is this typical S-shaped market development. And it's crucial for us, which is what we're doing with drones right now, we're doing with electric vehicles right now, and so on. We have to jumpstart these frontier industries with a range of these things that really enable market ecosystems to happen. This is the conversation, friends, we need to have with you as business leaders. Are we enabling these markets to take off? Have we created the market ecosystem? This is the kind of conversation that policymakers need to have with business leaders. Because, as I said, it's all about highly productive jobs in the private sector. That's what's going to power this economy forward. There is no other magic. Highly productive, high output jobs in the private sector. That's the key to all of this, which means we've got to get these markets to take off. And if we do that, friends, if we do that, then we give Bhola Mahto a chance. If we have to give Bhola Mahto a frontier job, we have to either make him a dairy farmer so that he has 10 cows that he's keeping and he's milking them and he's part of a dairy supply chain, or alternatively, he's working in a dairy processing plant. So this is what we need to do for Bhola so he can go from farm to frontier. And while we are doing that, friends, Remember, it's not just about Bhola Mehto. It's also about Geeta Oraon in Patratu. I got to make sure that Geeta Oraon also can get a job. And she also has to have a job that is forward-looking. Why not train her on a sewing robot? Why not get her into a really efficient textile factory, a really efficient with the most advanced equipment, because those are frontier industries as well. That's what we have to do. And so we end where we began. We end where we began, which is it's not about the $10 trillion economy. It's not about the $10 trillion economy. It's about making sure that Bhola Mehto and Geeta Oraon, Bhola Mehto and Geeta Oraon are plugged into these world-class frontier businesses, these world-class frontier industries, so that their output keeps on increasing, keeps on getting better, so that they can lead more prosperous lives. And we have to do that wherever they may be, whether they are in rural areas, semi-urban areas, urban areas. We cannot expect all of them to come to the cities. We have to be a $10 trillion economy and beyond. And maybe in the rest of the conference, you should not just talk about $10 trillion. You have to talk about, have we put in place the drivers that will take us to 10 trillion and beyond? Because that is the sustainable growth. So if we have to go from $10 trillion and beyond, friends, my challenge to the economists is, it's not farm to factory, it's farm to frontier. We have to keep growing, we have to keep innovating. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, sir. May I now request Mr. Sanjay Kirloskar to deliver his concluding remarks.
Mr. Jayant Sinha, Minister of State for Civil Aviation, my colleagues at IMA, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to conclude the opening session of the 45th National Management Convention. I think the stage is now set for many exciting presentations, panel discussions, and talks about Indian management and the Indian economy. The aim is to help you appreciate the emerging challenges being faced and identify ways to make a smooth transition to the next phase of growth. With technology seeping into every area of work and life, India is looking towards its young innovators and entrepreneurs to help deliver 8% growth and create jobs for millions of people who are joining the workforce every year. Of course, conventional industry also has to step in and adapt and adopt new technologies to make India more productive. Agility in leadership is more important, and management will be about winning the race of learning and innovation. India's startup ecosystem is developing fast, and there's plenty of global money coming into India's digital economy. The big ticket investments show that smart money is betting on Indian startups. It's very positive to see that foreign investment is moving beyond the usual areas and into healthcare, education, and other sectors as well. However, to scale up the startup sector, India needs to build a sound base of incubators. We need commercial incubators as well as incubators at universities and companies. In fact, these incubators and accelerators would be crucial for bridging the divide between the traditional economy and the digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a wonderful start for the 45th National Management Convention, and the stage is now set for 2 days of intensive discussions on a wide range of issues concerning India's future possibilities and the ways to turn them into reality. I am as grateful to you, Mr. Sinha, for joining us today. It was fascinating to hear you talk about an alternative development model for India. Clearly, as you said, India's best chance to achieve inclusion as well as growth is to go directly from farm to frontier technologies. It's a pleasure having you at the NMC, and we thank you for presenting the IMA Awards and fellowships. I think despite the jokes you made about PowerPoint and consultants, it was very relevant. Whatever you said was very relevant to the India growth story. My congratulations to Mr. Baba Kalyani on achieving the Managing India Award. Mr. Kalyani had to chair another event across town, and so he's not with us. but he is an outstanding achiever and really a great inspiration to all of us. It's really a privilege to honor him. Congratulations to Sunil and Sanjeev on being made honorary fellows of IMA. You're exemplary thought leaders, and IMA is privileged to have you as its fellows. Mohan, thank you for a very cordial welcome and warming everyone up as usual for some very intense discussions. Sanjeev, thank you for your chairman's address to set up the context for the deliberations that will follow in the next 2 days. I take this opportunity to express IMA's gratitude to past presidents, council members, and all the distinguished guests and delegates for joining us this morning, and everyone else, of course, in the audience. A special thanks to our sponsors, led by Reliance Industries, who've made it possible to organize this convention at this grand scale. I would also like to thank the media who've joined us this morning and look forward to great coverage of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great inaugural session, and I'm sure that we are now going to focus on discussions on growth leadership in the age of disruption. There are many exciting sessions through today and tomorrow, and I'm sure that you will enjoy each and every one of them. Before we conclude the session, IMA would like to present a memento to our distinguished guests. Mr. Sinha, may I request Mohan and Sanjeev to do the honors.
We thank the Honorable Minister, sir, and the dignitaries on the dais for that session. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to the end of the opening plenary session of IMA's 45th National Management Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not having a break for tea as we are behind time. We shall be serving tea and coffee from 11:30 a.m. onwards in the lawns outside. It will be a running tea and coffee. So you can please go ahead and grab a tea and coffee at your convenience. However, we shall be starting with the next session as soon as the stage is set. And the next session is a very, very special session, which we shall be starting at 11 a.m. sharp with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji. So please look forward to the session, and please kindly stay with us in the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, may I once again remind you all that we are not taking a break. We are starting with the next session, which is a special session with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji. So kindly stay back. We are starting the next session at 11 a.m. sharp. Tea and coffee will be served outside in the lawns from 11:30 a.m. onwards.
Every corporation wants people with integrity, people with honesty, people with dedication. And these qualities can be created in people.
Apex is the corporate training arm of the Art of Living, which has trained over 165,000 employees in over 350 organizations spread over 20 countries. The Apex offerings are carefully customized for each management layer of an organization. They are Apex Harmony, Apex Neo, Apex Empower, and Apex Leadership. Apex Harmony is designed for the blue-collar workers, enabling them to give their 100%, be physically and mentally fit, and create a cordial atmosphere in the workplace.
मैं तो कहता हूँ कि भगवान करे मेरा मैनेजमेंट ऐसे क्लास लगाता रहे और हमें शिक्षा मिलती रहे.
Apex Neo is designed for junior professionals, enabling them to take initiatives, be proactive, and improve their wellness and productivity.
It's been an amazing program. I have attended many programs until now, but this has been the best one. I love the way the things were put across.
Apex Empower is designed for mid and senior level professionals. This program
ensures that the managers improve their time management skills, enhance communication, and improve their perception, observation, and expression.
I feel every single person who will go through this will transform themselves and will impact others. So similarly, if I've got this treasure, I'd want others to go through this as well. And what tremendous value we can bring to each other's lives personally as well as professionally.
Apex Leadership is designed for the top level management. This program ensures that the leader challenges his or her comfort zones, create a culture of trust and belongingness, and emerge as an inspirational and stress-free leader.
This has been, I would say, one of the most profound 2-day courses that I've ever attended. I've been through so many leadership, learning, management, self-help programs over the years, but I think this one would probably have more profound impact on me personally and professionally than most others.
Participants of all the Apex programs experience the world-renowned Sudarshan Kriya breathing technique. Apex, accelerating high performance in employees and teams.
Meet Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, spiritual leader, humanitarian and visionary. He was born in South India in a traditional family. At the tender age of 4, he recited verses from an ancient Indian scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. By the age of 18, he was a scholar in Vedic studies and had obtained a degree in modern science. Soon he began traveling and teaching meditation. But he felt something more was needed to bring a transformation in people. In 1982, he went into a period of silence and emerged with the Sudarshan Kriya, a powerful breathing technique that aligns various biorhythms in the body and the mind. Sri Sri began sharing this knowledge and the art of living was born. Today, the foundation has a presence in 152 countries. Millions all over the world have experienced multifold benefits of the Art of Living programs.
The first time I really connected with my inner self.
Something which was shrinking now is close to me.
People from diverse backgrounds find answers and solace in his practical and profound wisdom. Seva or service is the outer expression of inner joy. Individual transformation multiplies, bringing a positive change in society. In order to spearhead humanitarian projects globally, Sri Sri founded the International Association for Human Values in 1997, headquartered at Geneva. With this vast network of committed volunteers, Sri Sri has inspired several service initiatives all over the world. The Art of Living schools in tribal and rural areas bring free education to thousands of children. Under the Rural Development Scheme, various vocational training centers have been launched to bring sustainable development. The Lighter Home project brings solar lights to areas without electricity. The Youth Leadership Training Program turns unemployed rural youth into agents of change. These youth leaders take charge of development projects and bring a transformation in their villages. By 2012, this program has reached 42,000 villages in India and is also very active in Africa and South America.
I was a heavy smoker, drink like a fish, but now cut down the smoking, drinking, just quit, just take that.
Women hold an important place in any society. Through campaigns and conferences, The Art of Living has created awareness in people on issues like female feticide and women's empowerment. Several projects have also been launched, like incense rolling, tailoring, and jute manufacturing units in India, Peanut Butter Project in Zimbabwe, a vocational training center in Iraq, tailoring units in South Africa, and many more. Under the Mission Green Earth initiative with the United Nations, the Art of Living family planted 55.5 million trees in 4 months globally. Under the watershed development projects, volunteers are also working on reviving 27 rivers in 3 states in India that had been dry for decades. Thanks to Sri Sri's efforts, thousands of farmers have left the use of chemical pesticides and are reaping the benefits of organic farming. Sri Sri says that inside every culprit is a victim crying for help.
I used to actually look forward to fights. But now since doing this course, I'm a total different person. I can now walk away from a fight.
The Prisons program helps to remove feelings of anger and revenge and has reached over 400,000 prison inmates worldwide.
I want to educate people with a more broader and liberal mindset, change this religious fanaticism in the world. And we all have to work together. I need help from every corner. Everyone has to join hands and re-educate or reprogram this culture of violence.
Sri Sri has taken initiatives to resolve global conflicts, working actively to facilitate the peace process in strife-torn areas.
I was named Muhammad, but after becoming a militant, I was called Khalid. We had been taught to operate guns, arms, and train other youths. But now, after doing the Art of Living course and meeting Sri Sri, we realized we had chosen the wrong path. We now want to spread love and non-violence in Kashmir.
In June 2015, Sri Sri met with the Colombian rebel group FARC, who had been involved in a 52-year-old war with the government. After 3 days of dialogue, they announced the adoption of Gandhian principles of non-violence.
Abrazar pronto el principio gandhiano de la no violencia.
In 2016, Sri Sri was invited by the Colombian government for the signing of their historic peace treaty with FARC, ending a bloody conflict that had claimed over 220,000 lives. Whenever disaster strikes, the Art of Living is one of the first groups to respond with relief efforts. Tsunami in Southeast Asia 2004, Hurricane Katrina, earthquakes in Haiti, Chile and Japan, floods in Bihar, Orissa, Assam, Uttarakhand, Dresden in Germany and Calgary, Canada, and also man-made calamities like the Beslan school hostage tragedy and the humanitarian crisis in Assam.
This course has allowed me to overcome the trauma of the earthquake and